crucial few days ahead for the ANC now as thousands of ANC delegates flock to the FNB Stadium in southern Johannesburg for registration. Small business operators are setting up kiosks to start doing business. They're putting up food stalls and exhibition tables displaying party regalia. Police are also out in force in the area with strict access conditions in place in and around the Nazareth area, now where the ANC's 55th National Conference kicks off tomorrow. And let's stay with the ANC conference and speak to Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, political analyst, and Rebone Tau, political commentator, who are joining me now in studio. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to have people in studio because we do feel lonely when we have to do conversations virtually. Dr. Vilakazi, I'm going to start with you because, you know, the ANC is going to be receiving reports, organizational reports and all of that. And these call for a reflection of how things have been in the previous years. What should some of those reflections be as they prepare to start tomorrow?
Good afternoon to you again, and to viewers at home. There's so much that the ANC needs to look at and think about. If you really an organization that is listening to the conscience of the nation, one of the things that I would imagine the ANC conference would need to prioritize is service delivery. That is at the top of the agenda. There's so much in the list of what we call service delivery. Of course, Eskom is #1 with the resignation of the CEO now, blackouts, Black Christmas. So that's a priority, a huge priority. Secondly, I think they would need to prioritize issues of employment, issues of poverty in the country, issues of sanitation in rural communities. We still have rural communities like KwaZulu-Natal, a province where I come from. We still have people that are dealing with the, you know, the consequences of the floods. People who literally do not have water, have not tasted water since the floods. So those are some of the things, and the list is endless, Bongi, where I can imagine that should be at the top of the agenda in terms of service delivery. And I think, of course, secondly, issues of policy. The ANC is an organization that, in my view, is going through what I would call a constitutional crisis and a policy crisis that is urgent, right? And it's an organization that has been thinking, I mean, they just came out of a policy conference, but clearly on the public domain, there are still contestations around issues of character, there are contestations around issues of ethics, there are contestations around the issues of power, who should lead and who should not lead. So for me, I think they need to prioritize issues of leadership succession and planning.
And Rebone, you know, the delegates are going to, as Dr. Vilakazi says, to be crucial when it comes to issues around policy direction, especially when you look at what came out of the policy conference. Now they go into these plenaries, into these commissions, and they're talking about these issues. But is the caliber of delegate right now in the ANC that is going into these commissions able to grapple with the everyday challenges of South Africans?
I think one must start by saying, you know, you speak about the policy conference, and we need to do a reflection. The ANC, going to this 55th National Conference, never had a National General Council to actually review the policies for the last 5 years, what has been implemented and what has not been implemented, and what are the reasons. So this is going to be a very difficult conference, especially for those who are not agreeing with the sitting president, because they are going to raise those things. Secondly, the way the policy conference was done this year, it was for the first time in the history of the ANC where branches of the ANC did not participate, but individuals were put together by regions and provinces to go and represent the provinces according to the allocation of numbers that they were given by national. So there's also going to be a contestation on some of these policy recommendations, you know, to say we think, you know, this should be like this based on the fact that they did not participate in the policy conference, you know, I mean, even the step aside, you know, we know that it's going to be #1 on the agenda, you know, but it's unfortunate that the ANC as an organization is so inward looking. You know, looking at the challenges that face this country. I think, you know, if you look at their most recent provincial conferences, it has always been about names more than about policy positions, and saying that, for an example, Lisbon were able to lead us during this epoch, where we are, is she the right person to implement these policies? Because the ANC has got good policies. The question is the implementation. I can take you back 10 years ago, right, in 2012 in Mangaung. One of the things I remember at the time, the former President Jacob Zuma raises that there is lack of service delivery at local government.
Yeah.
We're still seeing that the Auditor General supports.
And exactly, and you think about even decisions to disband the Scorpions, for example, which are critical when one looks at some of the policy directions that then come out. But Rebone, before I go to Dr. Vilakazi again, we are speaking this afternoon, the members that were disgruntled with the list of the former President Kgalema Motlanthe saying that they were not happy, have just had their matter struck off the roll. Are you surprised that it was?
I'm not surprised. And by the way, I was speaking to one of the people who was part of the team, behind the scenes, helping that team. Because I was asking them, are they the same group that has gone to court? Because we saw the letter to the electoral committee. And he says to me the response that they got was that they have not exhausted all the all means within the structures. So they were told that they did not go to the appeals committee, which for me I found it very difficult, because the appeals committee in most cases deal with issues of branches, whether if the branch corroded, if there were people. So you find that a member of the branch will then go to the appeal and say, my branch did not sit. So the issue is that it seems like the electoral committee also is playing politics here, not wanting, because I even spoke to some even PEC members who are contesting for NEC, and one of them was saying, I'm surprised that I got 100 nominations when my province, I resolved on my name, when my province, I know that my name was going around. And they were saying that what was the formula used? And that's what the ANC has failed to tell those disgruntled members. What formula did they use to arrive where they have arrived?
And it's going to be interesting then to see how they resolve this issue of the raw data, because that very point is going to go back there. Dr. Vilakazi, they're going into conference. The issue of women in positions of leadership, not only at contesting the Deputy Secretary General position, is once again top of mind. Are they able to ever achieve this? Because it's something they've been talking about for years.
Bongiwa, I can tell you now, I do not think that the ANC is capable of feminist leadership. I don't think it's an organization that is capable of respecting women, within the organization. And I think that has been demonstrated by the manner that they've been treating women candidates just in this national list, right? That is coming up. Just look at how they're treating Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma.
And she's going to be charged.
Totally, right?
How like for you, what does that tell you? What does it mean? How do you react to this development that we saw this afternoon?
Patriarchy at its best. She is being monitored. Now she is going to have to be punished, right? And that is the nature of patriarchy. Patriarchy punishes anything that would stand up against the dominance of masculinities of some kind. In this particular case, she's a strong candidate. We're talking about a candidate here that lost in the previous election by 173 votes, right? And she's been articulate, if you listen to her, talking about, I think, today or yesterday, around some of the issues that are troubling her, but also has made history. Right? She's made history to stand up in Parliament and say, as a disciplined member of the African National Congress, I vote yes. It was such a relief for some of us, right? A relief that the ANC is not enjoying. Clearly, they think that she should be punished, perhaps even expelled from the party. And that's disgusting, right? For me, it tells us as society that as the ANC is talking about being an organization that is for society, they continue to disrespect women. Women of this country have been looking up to say we need change, we need service delivery, we need our issues to be prioritized. Our mothers within the African National Congress, our sisters within the African National Congress have been subjected, Bongiwe, for many, many years. And this is not something new. We know even when the Women's League was formed under the leadership of Mama Ushalot Matleke, how she had to push women over time, right, who actually fought against the past laws. It was women of South Africa who marched with children on their back. Where were the men, right? And still, they continue to be subjugated. They continue to be seen as people who are not capable of leading this country. Each time a woman candidate comes up in the list of the ANC, you hear people like Paul Mashatile saying, it's not just about gender. It is not about being a woman. It's also about being able to put up someone that is capable of doing the job. Why does that question arise every time you put a woman candidate?
Another question that arises, Rebone, that puts them in a difficult position is the generational mix. And we are not seeing young people as well and one then takes it back to just the structures themselves going into this conference with interim structures?
Well, the leagues, the Youth League and the Women's League, it is unfortunate. Next year marks 10 years, since the disbandment of the Youth League. I mean, around this time in 2012, Julius was pleading with the ANC to say, can you not take away my membership? We even remember that he even wrote a letter to the conference, which was never accepted, by the leadership at the time, because he was requesting can the conference of the ANC deal with this matter and resolve on this matter. But there was a deliberate effort. And I always say to people, the role that Gwede Mantashe has played in the ANC, it's a very disruptive one, because at the time he was a Secretary General of the ANC. I mean, going back to what we're just talking about now, the issue of Mamunko Sazana, you have people like Praveen, Derek Hanekom in 2017 who never towed the line, but because they were men, they were allowed to get away with a lot of things, And unfortunately, you look at now even the tone that Gwede Mantashe was using, that if you don't toe the line, you're going to be expelled from the party, you're going to be suspended. He's not a unifier as a national chair. He does not understand that role of being a national chair. And we've seen also reports, even where Dr. Zweli Mkhize was even speaking about how they were running that meeting, the mafia style. And he's going to try to do that, at this conference as the national chair. He did it at policy conference when comrades were asking around the issues of the NGC, being very dismissive, being very arrogant about it. So it's unfortunate that even this generational mix, because when you speak to those, especially within the faction of the president, we know that Kensani Kubai, for example, a young woman, Ronald Lamola, a young fellow also, both of them coming from the Youth League. But the men who are strong in that the old men in that faction are making sure that they are suppressing. And it's unfortunate that, yes, the Youth League is at its weakest. They can speak, and push, and be that radical. And that is the reason why in 2012 the ANC made sure that they destroy the Youth League, so that this issue of a generational mix cannot find expression. Because you remember Mbalula, by the way, was a candidate of the Youth League around this time of generational mix 10 years ago, and again he's back now. But this time because of the elders want him.
We have lots to talk about during the course of the weekend and the next few days, because there's a lot. I mean, we're thinking about the issue of credentials and how easy it'll be for them to adopt these credentials. So as we watch the developments, I do hope that, we can even take some of the viewers into really understanding why this moment is critical, because it's not only about step aside, it's not only about voting, but there is, of course, some policy directions here that must be watched closely. But let's leave it there for now with you. Thank you so much for coming in. That's Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, a political analyst, as well as Rebone Tau, a political commentator. And we'll continue to monitor developments around the ANC conference.